Welcome back. Well, today we are back to our disaster preparedness plan, the airport plan. Last time we talked about the A, assessment. So we've probably already had a chance to give some thought to what our domestic circumstances are. That's our assessment. What sort of natural disasters we are likely to face. It's also part of it, and that depends on our geography. And today we're going to talk about inventory, and we'll get into that when we come back. So, inventory, what's it all about? Well, for starters, it's not just about stuff. Part of it is about stuff, to be sure, but it's also about the inventory we take with us. That's our skill sets. I know a lot of you are women my age, and we have massive, massive skill sets. We can cook for an army. We know how to can food. We know how to prepare menus, even under difficult circumstances like, a job layoff or overextended on Christmas bills, whatever those circumstances are that have constricted our grocery budgets from time to time over the years. And these are things we bring to the party with us no matter where we go, no matter where we are, no matter what our circumstances are. The inventory of stuff we have between our ears is constant. That stays with us. At least until we get so old and senile, we start forgetting about it. And let's face it, we're a long way from that. So let's start talking about the physical inventory, the inventory of stuff. If you need to evacuate, do you have the things you need? In other words, do you have lightweight luggage, nylon duffel bags with shoulder straps, things you can grab and go with? If you have pets and you need to evacuate those pets, do you have adequate carriers? Do you have the ability to box up enough pet food for them, or medicine if they're, some of our pets, let's face it, are high need animals. Mine, as you all know, because he depends on you for approval and affection. He sticks his face in the camera every chance he gets, love a cat. So mine is a high need animal in that sense. And that's why shoving him in a carrier is going to go over like a lead balloon, because being shoved in a carrier means nobody's making a fuss over him, nobody's petting him, and he has to be good for a while. I don't know how well he'll cope with that. But we're looking at the things that would be valuable to us either in an evacuation or a shelter-in-place situation. And as we've discussed, we might not have a choice, no matter which one would be our preference. A wide variety of circumstances could force another option on us, and we need to be prepared for both. So, for those of us who would prefer to evacuate, right now it's shelter-in-place time, and we don't have a choice about that. There is no international travel anymore, and although we can still travel from state to state, we're all pretty much on lockdown. So a lot of these things are going to be unusually difficult at this time. So right now, shelter in place is the plan we have to go with. On the other hand, if it was a massive flood, if it was a chemical spill on the highway, evacuation might be the only option. I'm from the East Coast. I am an East Coast person. You take me too far away from the Atlantic and I start to break out in a rash. So for me, hurricanes are the major evacuation disaster. There are a lot of times when the conditions are just so bad you can't stay. As I've said before, we all saw that with Katrina. Even people who wanted to stay and shelter in place were eventually forced to evacuate. And as I've said before, we want to do this on our own terms. If we have to evacuate, we want to choose that, not have someone choose it for us. If we have to shelter in place, we want to do that on our own terms too. So that's part of what all this preparedness is about. So in terms of your inventory, look at your evacuation inventory and your shelter-in-place inventory. Your evacuation inventory is lightweight, easily portable luggage, carriers for your animals, that sort of thing. Do you have what you need to take with you? Then, do you have adequate security to ensure that your property would be safe while you were gone? That, by the way, is like a whole video all by itself, and we'll probably get to that. Easy ways to secure your property. Easy and cheap ways to secure your property. But that's for another time. If you're sheltering in place, do you have adequate food, water, and fortunately for us, our basic services are not impacted by what's going on right now. We still have power, we still have water. There are many circumstances that could impact that. A major winter storm can knock down power lines. Anything that can knock down the power lines can threaten your water supply as well, because a lot of water delivery systems are powered by electricity. A lot of people who even have their own water supply, their own wells, these supplies are powered by electric pumps. So water is an important consideration, and it's one we're inclined to overlook because we turn on a tap and it's always there. So you definitely need to look at that. If you are sheltering in place in a winter storm, the assumption, of course, is that it's cold. Do you have alternate sources of heat? If you have a couple of dogs, boy, you're going to be warm because they're going to be cuddling. But for those of us who live in storm areas, things like a wood stove or a kerosene heater, these are important. It's certainly something to consider. So that's what we need to look at. Oh, and obviously toilet paper. If this whole pandemic has taught us absolutely nothing else, it's that we need either toilet paper or toilet paper substitutes, like baby wipes, hopefully flushable baby wipes, but baby wipes, anything like that. If it comes to it, a few extra rolls of paper towels. We talked already about cutting up dish towels or old face cloths, whatever. But yeah, it's one I wouldn't have expected, and if I had been doing an inventory prior to this little catastrophe, I'm not 100% sure toilet paper would have made my list, but believe me, from now on it will. Those are the things we need to look at. Now, for those of us who are in storm areas, and I grew up in New England, so I grew up in areas where, if you didn't get snowed in the winter, you were just dancing a happy little dance because spring had come early. Getting snowed in the winter is routine in some parts of the country. As a consequence, most of us who have grown up in those circumstances usually have at least 2 weeks worth of food in our cabinets, and that's just normal for us. That doesn't represent pre-planning or emergency preparedness. It's just a way of life at this point. So we need to take a look at all of those physical things. Do you have your medications? Not just medications, but if you take vitamins. That's one of the things I have. My cabinet's just full of vitamins. Do you have at least 2 or 3 weeks worth of vitamins? If you don't, boy, that should go on your list. Grab an extra bottle of this, an extra bottle of that. If you can tolerate aspirin, by the way, this is just a little tip. If you can tolerate aspirin, I know a lot of people don't, it's irritating for their stomachs. Aspirin is one of the best painkillers to ever hit the market. I spoke with a doctor once who told me that in his opinion, if aspirin came on the market today, and he said this about 5 or 10 years ago, that it would be a prescription drug because it is such a powerful painkiller. It is also an anti-inflammatory, and it can be used in low doses to prevent heart disease. So aspirin, my goodness, a bottle of aspirin is cheap and you can get it anywhere. Drugstores, grocery stores, Walmart, dollar stores. If you can tolerate aspirin, grab a bottle, because you could be in a situation where medical help might not be easily obtained. And staying out of pain is a good thing. That's just bottom line. As human beings, we usually feel better when we don't hurt, when we don't ache. So when you've looked at that, then start looking at the rest of your inventory, the non-physical stuff. I know a lot of you are my age, so we can can food. Canned food, home canned food, is one of the easiest and least expensive ways to fill your pantry or a closet shelf even with emergency rations, because you can can anything. You can can beef stew, you can can spaghetti sauce, you can can fruit juices without even using a pressure canner. There are a great many things, and fruits come to mind immediately. These things can be canned in nothing but a hot water bath, which means if you have a large pot and you get a box of canning jars, mason jars, ball jars, those are the two major brand names, and you can get them anywhere, by the way. My local dollar store carries them. Canning jars, you can take your big pot, go to the store, grab some apples on sale, cook up your apples, make yourself some applesauce, shove it in your canning jars, stick them back in the very same pot, warm, just heat the water on the stove. You heat the water until boiling, and that's it. That's a hot water bath. You get them in there. Oh, and of course, you wait till your lids pop. By the way, I'm giving you a quick sloppy overview of that. We can go into that in more detail if you'd like, or you just go online, and it's called a hot water bath canning. So easy. And among other things, your spaghetti sauce, because remember I said fruits, tomatoes, it's one of the things that you can in your hot water bath. Don't even need a pressure canner. Pressure canner, on the other hand, is $20 to $30 and might not be a bad investment. But it's a way for you to provide your family with the foods you're cooking for them anyway, or maybe they're cooking for you. Who knows? It's the things that you're used to eating. Pop them in jars, back of the closet. There you go. We've got Uncle Fred's spaghetti sauce, and then we've got Auntie Ellen's applesauce, and everybody's happy. And it's inexpensive because you're not actually buying prepackaged cans or jars, and you are in control of the ingredients. So that's something that, if canning is one of your skills, it's a great way to put it to use. If canning is not one of your skills, trust me, it is not brain surgery. You can teach a small child to can. The pressure canners today are not the monstrous, things in danger of exploding that they were when we were kids. They're safe now. It's definitely worth looking at. And that is a skill that gives you more inventory. That's the way it works. So I gave you some real examples when we talked about assessment. And we talked about my situation and Jocelyns' situation, which, as I say, is very interesting because we're 7 miles apart. So we face the same geographic threats. She is just as likely to be snowed in as I am. And because we're 7 miles apart, if I'm snowed in, she is. Flooding, that's the big thing here. Hurricanes, not so common, but boy, they hit South Central Pennsylvania. They have done so before. They will do it again. And we also talked about whether she would be better off sheltering in place or evacuating. And because she has a large family and the birds and so on, she might be better off sheltering in place. On the other hand, in her inventory is the fact that she has 3 adults in her household. All 3 of them have driver's licenses. Huge. That's not in my inventory. So if she needs to evacuate, you pack everything into the car. You get somebody to drive it. I don't know how many cars they have at least 2. But you just take it on the road. And if you have all 3 drivers and all 3 cars, and one car is full of birds and one car is full of kids and one car is full of stuff, just make your own little caravan up to high ground or wherever it is you're evacuating to. Great. Makes it easy. That's not in my inventory. I don't have a car. Even if I had a car, I don't have a driver's license. Even if I had a driver's license, I don't know how to drive. And even if I did know how to drive, I'm blind. I'd be in danger on the road. I would kill myself or someone else. Good Lord. So that's not in the cards for me. But my inventory has something else. I am intimately familiar with all of the public and mass transit systems right up and down the East Coast. I am 1 hour from a train station, and a train station on Amtrak. I've got the entire country at my disposal. And if our borders are open, by the way, I've got Mexico and Canada too. So it's unique. My skill set is not their skill set. And so my inventory is not their inventory. And again, their inventory, my inventory is not your inventory. You may well have a whole variety of skill sets. I know people who are Appalachian Trail hikers. That's what they do around here. We are at the foot of the Appalachian Mountains here in South Central Pennsylvania. And that goes like right up into Maine. It might go into Canada too, I don't know. But it is a mountain range that just runs right up the East Coast. So there are people in my area who, because they know the Appalachian trails, can literally just put on their hiking boots and start walking. Excellent skill to have, especially in an emergency if the roads are shut down, and of course if the trails are passable. So we all have this, just the massive inventory of information we have. If you've ever worked in the medical fields, then you have a whole lot of home health information that could prove very useful. If you're a teacher, then your mind is just a bottomless pit of trivia. You can start pulling that stuff out. For example, I know how to treat an infected wound with nothing but table sugar. That's the truth. I know that sounds weird, doesn't it? But why is that? Because I studied medical history. Nobody does that anymore. But a couple hundred years ago, before antibiotics, that was how you treated infection. So it's this useless stuff that in an emergency can prove very handy. So that's what you need to keep in mind when you're doing your inventory. What do you have physically? What do you have mentally? Because remember, your mental skills can, for one thing, enhance your physical inventory. Meal prep canning, economical grocery shopping. If you can cut $2 or $3 a week, that's all, just $2 or $3 a week off your shopping bill. It's $2 or $3 a week's worth of canned goods that can go into your emergency cupboard. Very easy. This is something that we can all do to varying degrees. Now, some of us, of course, have just mad skills when it comes to this. I know we all know people who can just go out into the woods, forage for food, make a fire by rubbing two sticks together. It's just like, oh my goodness, they're like Jeremiah Johnson. So exciting, just real nature boys and girls. Fantastic skill sets. Could they prove handy? You bet they could. Because, as I say, in my area, a lot of the potential dangers, the potential threats involve a loss of our infrastructure, power, water, and that a snowstorm takes down the power lines, a hurricane takes down the power lines, flooding can interfere with the reservoirs. So it's just, boy, when you think of it, it just gets so scary. But anyway, we're going to stay positive. All these things could prove very, very useful. So before we go, I do want to give you one tip, by the way, on water. If you have 35-gallon trash buckets, those Rubbermaid trash containers, clean them out. It's 35 gallons of water you can store. All you have to do is park it in a shady spot of your yard or your garage or somewhere. You're not going to be able to move it once you park it because water weighs 8 pounds a gallon. If you've got 35 times 8, as you can see, you need a forklift to move it. So find yourself a good spot, take your garden hose, and fill a couple of trash containers with water. Throw some bleach in because you want to make sure vermin doesn't grow in your water. Even if you are not going to drink that water, if you're going to drink bottled water or you have other options for your drinking water, having water for washing, for flushing toilets, I was going to say for your pets, but if I'm not drinking the water, neither is Audie, I'll be honest with you. But just flushing your toilet, because all you need is that 35-gallon bin out in your backyard and a mop bucket, and you can flush your toilet. You just pour the water in the bowl, and it flushes. You can even pour the water in the tank if you want and use the flusher if you are more accustomed to that sort of 21st century way of doing things. Water is always a good thing to have on hand. If you have a trash can, you have water. So that's something that, by the way, you should add to your inventory right now. A trash can, yes, okay, fill it with water. Because I thought it might be useful to just throw in a little bit of practical. So take a look at your inventory, see what you've got. Do you have what you need to shelter in place for 2 to 3 weeks? Do you have what you need to evacuate? Because you don't want to be faced with evacuation with 2 cats, no carriers, and all you have is some giant heavy Samsonite suitcase. You want to make sure you've got lightweight nylon duffels, carriers for the cats, a leash harness, possibly muzzle for the dog, because you may end up having to take your dog into a populous area where they don't allow dogs to walk around without muzzles. Keep all this in mind. Take a look at your inventory now. Okay. Now, next time we're going to do resources. And the resources are the way we're going to supplement what we already have. So we see what we've got, we see the shortfall. That's where resources comes in. Before we go, I want to just quickly mention the giveaways again here. This is another one of our pieces that is eventually going to be a giveaway. And this is a piece of broken china. I had some losses when the schoolhouse roof collapsed. We were able to repair a few of the rose medallion pieces. Some of them were just broken to bits. And one of our viewers, Randy Romines, had asked for the broken bits of china. And she turned them in to giveaway pieces like this. I think we've got at least half a dozen necklaces. We've got a bracelet. Beautiful, beautiful pieces, keepsakes from the schoolhouse disaster. So that's going to be a future giveaway. Right now, the Photobomb Kitty is going through comments, choosing winners for the last two giveaways. Those winners are going to be announced next weekend. So stay tuned. Make sure if you've entered that you're checking to see if you won. Excuse me. And be sure to get in touch so you can claim your prize, because I'm so anxious. We've got so many beautiful giveaways, and I'm really anxious to get to them. Okay, as we sign off, I want to show you some pictures. This is Evelyn. She is our littlest subscriber. And Evelyn has been watching the Sumi videos from the very beginning, since before she was capable of standing up next to the television. And we've got 3 pictures of little Evelyn. The first one, she's watching videos. The second one, she's doing her girl power thing. And the third one, she found the baby wipes, she found Mummy's duster, and she's helping to clean. So, and I should also mention she has a little boo-boo on her nose, because just before her mom took the pictures, she'd taken a little tumble, but she's fine now, so all better. But this is part of my life goes on. So on our way out, we're going to take a quick look at little Evelyn. It's our hope for the future. Okay, I will see you again tomorrow. As I said, doing videos. We're going to just keep the channel open while we're all stuck in our little self-imposed isolation. All right, have a great day.